Thank you, everyone, for being here today. As we celebrate our nation's 250th birthday here in 2026, I can't help but remember back during my history lessons in school the importance of textile, apparel, and industry that helped form this country. But it takes an innovative and hard-working entrepreneurs to make that success happen. And with that, I'm honored to introduce our next keynote speaker, Dean Wegner. Dean is a veteran, an entrepreneur, a patriotic leader whose priorities are firmly rooted into God, family, and country. His personal story and values reflect the very ideals on which our nation is built. Dean is the founder and CEO of Authentically American, a veteran-owned, American-made premium apparel brand that has earned significant national media attention. In 2024, Authentically American was selected by the Small Business Administration for more than 8,000 Tennessee businesses as a veteran-owned business of the year. I'm truly glad you could join us today. You're in for a real treat. Please join me in welcoming my good friend, Dean Wegner.
Guys, it is awesome to be here. And one of my philosophies in life is not what you do, it's who you do it with. And the reason why today is so extra special, I have friends here who I went to West Point with. I have friends I served in the Army with, and friends throughout my career that I've had. So I could not be more excited, I could not be more honored to be here. And thank you for all for coming out today. So, I'm going to share a number of stories today, and all of them are rooted in these 10 words, and they reflect my belief and my commitment to my family and my Christian faith. They also reflect my belief in the power of mission and purpose. They also talk about grit and perseverance and how that's often needed to be successful. They will also talk about quality and innovation and how important that is as we're on this journey to build a brand. And the last one is the opportunity to have impact and leave a legacy as we dare to do something so unique and different and build this iconic brand. So, before we get started, I want you guys to know a little bit about me personally. So, just last year, my wife Kelly and I celebrated anniversary number 31. 31! For those of you that are laughing, you don't know me that well, because I'm a lot to put up with. So, thankful for her love and partnership. So, Kelly and I have 4 amazing kids. We have 2 daughters, 27 and 24. We have a 21-year-old son. He is a sophomore at West Point. I played Army hockey at West Point. He's an Army hockey player like his dad. Fortunately, much better than his dad. And then we still have one at home. We have our 15-year-old son we adopted from Ethiopia. So like Eric mentioned, God, family, country. That's how the priorities line up for me. And I'm going to talk about this number. 150 million. That is a big number. And what that number represents is the number of orphans in the world. The number of kids who don't have a mom or dad. Who don't have a loving home like many of us grew up in and wanted to provide. And my wife Kelly and I heard that number and we were heartbroken. But it was such a staggering number, we thought, what can we do with such a big number? And we talked and prayed about it and said, we can't adopt them all, but we can adopt one. And this is where it started. This is the very first picture of our son, Skel. And we saw that picture, we saw his eyes, and we just said, you know what? God just absolutely meant for Skel to be our son. I mean, we cried, we wept, we absolutely knew. And a quick funny story, you see his shirt? You see how messy that is? We thought, how sad. He must have been wearing that shirt for a week. And I will tell you, when we got him home after one meal, that is one day. He's the messiest arm you have ever seen. But here's a more recent picture of Skel. I'll tell you, he is is an incredible, amazing young man. And what a skill really taught me is the impact that one person can have. Because I can't tell you the number of people that have met a skill, heard his story, and in turn decided to adopt. And that's just been a lesson that has really stuck with me, is the impact that one person can have. So I graduated from West Point back in 1993. And there's a number of West Point grads, and they will tell you it's a long, hard 4 years. And there were so many invaluable life lessons I learned, but there were really two that really stuck with me. Number one is the importance of values. I still remember a recruiting poster they sent me back in high school that said much of the history we teach was made by people we taught. And it pictured Presidents Eisenhower and Grant, Generals MacArthur and Patton. And in fact, it was in 1962 that General MacArthur was at West Point, and he said, duty, honor, country. These three hallowed words readily dictate what we ought to be, what we can be, what we will be. And that stuck with me, and that sticks with every single member of the Long Gray Line, and it just really reinforces the importance of values and how they're the bedrock of any organization. The other lesson for me was the importance of mission. And all the way back in 1802, the mission from West Point was all about training cadets for a lifetime of service to our nation. And that lifetime concept, that idea of service, has really stuck with me. And both those principles around the importance of mission and the importance of values have really stuck with me. So the choice I made back at West Point for my branch, I chose aviation. So I spent a year down in LA, down in Lower Alabama, learning how to fly. And two stories that I want to share, and ironically, they were both on the same flight. So I was stationed at Fort Irwin in the high desert of California. So if you can picture on a map, LA and Las Vegas was right in the middle. And we were on a night mission from Fort Irwin out to Nellis Air Force Base, which was on the east side of Las Vegas. And I was a young second lieutenant back then with less than 100 hours of flight time. And I was flying with CW5 Leon Whitehurst, one of Army Aviation's finest with over 10,000 hours. And as we were preparing to take off from Nellis Air Force Base and fly back, he said, "Sir, what do you think if I requested the strip transition?" And we proceeded to fly right down the Vegas Strip, past the Mirage, past the MGM, past that rotating restaurant at the top of the Stratosphere. I remember looking at Leon like, that guy's eating a steak. And it's medium rare. I mean, that's how close we are. Truly an unforgettable experience. But here's the sad part of that story. They don't let you do the strip transition anymore. But here's the other part of the story. So we started our long flight back, 150 miles, and we were cruising at 10,000 feet. And unlike the bright neon lights of Las Vegas, if you've ever made that drive from Vegas to LA, you have a good picture in your mind. It is barren, desert, mountainous terrain. And on this night, there was no moonlight, and the little bit of starlight was concealed by unusual cloud cover. And we're again cruising along at 10,000 feet. All of a sudden, there was this big bag, and the engine stopped. And we started to drop like a rock. And I'm freaking out. I have no idea what to do. And miraculously, the engine restored, and a few seconds later, we were at the stable of flight. And I'm still thinking, I almost lost my life. I almost lost my wife, Kelly, and I would never have the joy of being a dad. And for the next hour on the flight back, Leon Whitehurst, 10,000 hours, cool as a cucumber, talked to me about what would have happened if we would have completely lost our engine. And I still remember the words he said. He said, "Sir, some things in life you train until you get it right. Other things, like the work we do, you train until you can't get it wrong. You train until you can't get it wrong." And Leon was an incredible mentor to me and so many, other pilots, junior pilots like me. And that's one of the lessons I learned, is how important it is to have somebody like Leon in your life. So I'm also often asking, what is it? What is in life that best prepared you to be an entrepreneur? There's a lot of stress, there's a lot of rigors, and I didn't know it back then. but hands down, it's the Army Special Forces Ranger School. It was all about no sleep and incredible stress. That's the life I've been living as an entrepreneur. And for those of you that are not familiar with Ranger School, there's a lot of military doctrine and tactics, but at its core, Ranger School is a leadership course. And what they do is deprive you of everything you think you need to survive, namely food and sleep, and then put you in incredibly stressful situations. So on day one, there were 340 of us. And if you make it straight through it in 72 days, you live on 1 meal a day, you live on 2 to 3 meals per day. So you live on 1 meal per day, 2 to 3 hours sleep per night, and then they put you in incredibly stressful situations, crank up the physical, mental, emotional stress, all with the goal to get you to break down, and it worked. It worked because there were 340 of us on day one. We lost 80% of our class, and there were only 70 of us on graduation day. And this was, a huge day of celebration. After enduring such an incredible challenge, could not be more excited. Let me show you a close-up picture. Do I look happy? It was miserable. It was absolutely awful. But, there were 2 important lessons I learned. Was one, life can be hard. It can be incredibly difficult. And if you have something challenging you're going to do in life, don't do it alone. Find that ranger buddy in life to do it with you. And me, as a flight super and aviator, I had no business being at Ranger School, let alone making it straight through and graduating. And what happens at Ranger School on day one? You're assigned a Ranger buddy. Your Ranger buddy is there to have your back, to always be there when you have a need. And back then, my Ranger buddy was Marine Corps Infantry Sergeant Wegner. And we made a pact on day one. We said, no matter how hard it gets, no matter how much we want to quit, we're going to persevere and we're going to stand there together on graduation day. And what is really neat is 30 years later, Roy and I still keep in touch. So here's the other lesson around teamwork. So there's 4 phases to Ranger School, and this was the final phase, the jungle phase. And I was the commander to go ahead and lead a midnight ambush, which is already a tough exercise. But what made this one extra challenging is 2 days before that, somebody in our ranks stole some MREs. Those are meals ready to eat, and when you only get 1 meal a day, it's a big deal. And the ranger instructors for 2 nights straight kept us up without no sleep, trying to flush out the perpetrator. So we're now going on the 3rd night in a row without any sleep, and I'm tasked to be the commander, so my adrenaline's pumping, I'm fired up, and I'm like, I gotta lead by example. Everyone is fired up, so I'm hustling around. There are 150 of us, we're setting everyone up on the ambush. At 11:30 came, everyone's in a position. And just to give you a visual, everyone's laying down in a prone position. And what I said is every 30 minutes, I'm just going to keep hustling, I'm going to keep persevering, I'm going to check in with everyone. So at midnight, no enemy contact. So I went up and down the entire line, checked in with everyone. 12:30 came, still no contact, check in with everyone. 1 o'clock came, the same thing. At 1:30, as I'm getting ready to go ahead and make the check, the senior ranger instructor came up to me, and he asked me to get up with one knee. And he said, Ranger Wegner, that was impressive. One of the best ambushes I've ever seen set up. And inside I was like, yes, yes. And then he looked at me after a long pause, he said, Ranger Wegner, you weren't that well. You have failed. And I looked at him in disbelief, and he was probably wondering, why? And he said, Ranger Wegner, shh. He said, listen. Shh. We listened, and all you could hear was snoring. All you could hear is snoring. We walked the entire line, and there wasn't a single ranger awake. And he said, here's the lesson I want you to learn. I admire your hustle, I admire your drive, but you're not Superman. Nobody is. You should have relied on your first sergeant. You should have relied on your platoon leaders. You should have relied on your platoon sergeant. And that's the lesson I want you to take away. And that's a lesson that has stuck with me throughout my life, is the importance of teamwork. So we launched Authentically American from a blank sheet of paper in 2017. And I still remember all the way back to 1993, raising my right hand and committing to preserve and protect the Constitution of the United States. And that really meant something to me. And I can't tell you the countless men and women I served with who had that same sense of, higher sense of purpose, knowing we were serving this great nation of ours. And as we're launching Authentically American, I really wrestled with this, how are we going to make that mission, that purpose really resonate? And what really made it come to life for me was hearing a podcast from Simon Sinek. And if you haven't heard something from him, his whole mantra is start with why. And if you go to our website, authenticallyamerican.us, you will see that the heart of our mission is our passion for creating American jobs. We just happen to be in the apparel business. And I wish every member of the Authentically American team was here, because you would hear them echo the same sentiments. Our belief in our mission, our opportunity to create American jobs, and ultimately, if we're successful, leave an incredible legacy. And one of the things that I really wrestled with early on was we had a very clear vision, our values and mission, but I really wrestled with how do we make this story come to life? And I remember back in 2000 when I graduated, back in 2000 when I left the Army, I couldn't even spell entrepreneur. I had no idea this world existed, and reason being, had an amazing dad growing up, and for 30 years, he worked for a Fortune 500 company. And that's what most of his friends, that's what most of our neighbors did, so that's the only world I knew. So I worked on brands like Crest and Tide and M&M's, and incredibly thankful for that experience because they're both world-class marketing and branding companies, and learned some tremendous insights into building a brand. But in an $80 billion company, it felt like a cog in the wheel. And I was very well paid and taken care of, but I really wrestled with it. I'm truly making a difference in such a big company. And that was the catalyst to become an entrepreneur. But when you can't spell entrepreneur, I didn't think that I had it in me to start a business from scratch. So I actually entered the entrepreneur ranks for acquisition. And I can pretty much guarantee it, it's a business you've never heard of, but I bought a government contractor that produced dress uniforms for the military. So we produce thousands of uniforms every week for Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. So if you've been to a military parade, you've been to a sporting event, and you've seen the military and their fancy dress uniforms, that's the company I bought. And one of the things I learned was the tragic, shocking history of the apparel industry, which, to give you an idea how rare American made it is, when I graduated from West Point back in 1993, over 50% was made in the US. Today it's 3%. And I'm also passionate about creating American jobs, and that's where I thought, I want to win more contracts, and I thought we'll create more jobs, but I was rather naive back then and didn't really understand government contracting. And I learned that it's really a bidding process. So Devin, if you and I are bidding on a contract and you had it before and I won, in essence, your job's transferred to me, and that there's no real job creation. And that was that light bulb moment for me that said, what if? What if instead of being a government contractor, what if we built a brand? And I thought back to the days of Crest and Tide and M&M's, and I also thought, what if, instead of what 97% of brands do and chase cheap level overseas, what if we made the intentional choice to produce right here? And that's where it all started in 2017, from a blank sheet of paper with a vision to build this iconic American brand that's truly American made. I gotta be honest, I'm exhausted. It's been the hardest, most challenging thing I've done. But as exhausted as I am even more energized because I truly believe in what we're doing, and it's all about passion. And here's the exciting part. We're on the verge of being an overnight success story, 8 years in the making. So one more story about passion. So I live in Nashville, and if you've been to Nashville, it is Music City. And we have the privilege of hearing some incredible artists. And one of my favorite artists growing up was Charlie Daniels. And one of my favorite songs was The Devil Went Down to Georgia. And Charlie sadly passed away in 2020. And my wife Kelly and I were at a fundraiser, and we were invited to sit at the head table with Charlie and his wife Hazel. And at that time, his health was really starting to deteriorate. And I remember walking up to the table, and he could barely get up to go ahead and say hello. And we were looking at the program, we're like, Charlie's going to perform my favorite song. How is that even possible? And he struggled to get up on stage, but I will tell you, when he got up on stage, it was like electricity filled his body, and he forgot every ailment and injury he had. He was jumping around like a young child on that stage, and later that night I had a chance to talk to Charlie, and I'm like, Charlie, what happened? He's like, Dean, very early on at a young age, I found what I love. I love entertaining, I love music, and when I am entertaining and I'm playing music, that is my happy place. And he talked about when you find something that you truly love, you find your passion, it doesn't feel like work. So, the other thing I wrestled with early on was this clear vision in my mind where we want to go as a brand. But to get an idea, back in the P&G and Mars days, we literally had Super Bowl ad budgets. My marketing budget was about this big. So I really wrestled with how we make this idea come to life. And the thought was, although we don't have a big marketing budget, we have a feel-good American story, being better known, being American-made, and creating U.S. jobs. So we thought, we're going to play the earned media card. And we're going to try and get as much free press and PR as we can. And I've got to tell you, I've been blown away. It has been an incredible blessing. We've been on Fox and Friends many times. We've been on MSNBC. We've been in Forbes magazine. And it's been an incredible blessing. And the very first appearance was in 2018. And when I got a call from one of the producers at Fox and Friends, and heard we were going to be sitting on the perfect couch and 2 million people were going to be watching, I was incredibly nervous. I'm like, I've never been on national TV. I don't want to blow it. And literally spent over 100 hours preparing. And to set the context, this was 2018, right before 9/11. And this was the time when Nike launched their Kaepernick campaign. And I'm going to show you the last minute of this segment, just to show you what everything went through.
You're not going to pick up many pieces of apparel that has made in the USA. These products, every one of them, across the board, all made in this country.
What about, I heard like Nike saying, we're going to market the idea that you don't have to stand for the flag.
Well, I don't agree with that. I sense that. I don't agree with that at all. It's unfortunate that we're in that situation, or that the NFL is.
And I believe, good or bad, we're defined by the choices we make. And we're being very intentional in the choices we make. And, the simple thing about staying, I also am an American, believe in the Constitution, and, freedom of speech, freedom of expression. So I don't need to talk about what everyone else is doing. What I can talk about is what we do. And a simple thing about Stan, my background with our family, when we're talking to the kids and somebody walks in, what do we ask them to do? We ask them to stand and shake hands and look them in the eye. That's a sign of respect. Military. When a commanding officer, when your superior walks in, you stand up. And it's not about what anyone else is doing. This is the choices that we're making. And our position is, if you're a business, your values are authentically American-like, we want you to call us.
All right, and listen, if you'd like more information about their products, go to authenticallyamerican.us.
And I'll tell you, that moment changed everything. Not because we were on national TV, not because 2 million people were watching, but literally and figuratively, we made a decision on what we're going to stand for. And we are a brand that from day one has always celebrated patriotism. We believe in the American worker, and we're also very intentional about giving back and serving and making a difference. And that will forever be the hallmark of who we are as a brand. So, year one, back in 2017, the thought I made, or the assumption I made, was everyone was like me. Everyone was like Devin. Either had served this great nation of ours, they were a veteran, or they were very patriotic. And the fact that only 3% is American-made, I thought everyone would love our brand just because of that. And over the first 5 years, I learned 2 things. First, most people don't know where their shirt is made. They have no idea, which I'm actually okay with that. That gave birth to our tagline, "Where's yours made?" It's designed to be provocative. Tomorrow morning, when you go to put on your new favorite shirt, I want you to look at the tag and be shocked and disappointed when you see made in China or made anywhere but the US. But here's the other thing I learned that I'm really struggling with. And the fact is, most people don't care. They flat out just don't care. I gotta tell you, for a while, I was angry. I was really upset. I'm like, our arch rival in China is making the majority of the apparel in the world. How is you an American cannot care that you're putting a shirt on your back? But now that I'm over my anger issues, I've embraced that as a new brand in an ultra-competitive apparel industry. We can't be all these old people. We really needed a niche. We really need to focus our efforts. And the stories I'm going to share about is one group that does care, and that's the veteran. Is anyone familiar with Tunnel to Towers? I see a lot of people nod your heads, but if you're not familiar, it is an incredible organization. And it was birthed out of 9/11, and an incredibly courageous fireman named Stephen Siller, he was actually off duty on 9/11. He heard everything going on the radio, and he had to try to hop in his truck and drive into the towers. And unfortunately, he couldn't do that, but that didn't stop Stephen. He put on 60 pounds of fireman gear, and ran 5 miles all the way back to the tower. And courageously, he saved countless people's lives, but tragically in the process, Stephen paid the ultimate sacrifice. And what happened for years and years, a group of firemen would sit around a card table and plan a 5-mile run every year in Stephen's honor. And about 10 years ago, they got really serious, and they're now a $500 million charity. And if you're not familiar with what they do, if you're a veteran, you're a first responder, you're a police officer, for example, and you're killed in the line of duty, what they will do is pay off your mortgage so your family never again has to worry where you're going to live. I mean, it is incredible the impact they're having. And in 2022, I was introduced to their Chief Marketing Officer, Larry Olson, and we were having a Zoom call, an introduction. And remember that our tagline, that 3% virtues made? I knew Tunnel to Towers ordered a ton of apparel. So Larry and I were on a call, and I said, Larry, I know you're going to order a ton of apparel. Where's yours made? And Larry looked at me very confidently and said, Dean, we serve veterans and first responders. I got to believe my team's ordering American made. He said, but I want to check. He went and hustled in the back room, he came back, and he slammed his hand on the table and said, doggone it, I can't believe it. Everything is made in China, everything is made in Bangladesh and Vietnam, and that just does not feel right here when we serve. He said, Dean, I want to do a big test. We're going to order t-shirts, polos, quarter zips, hoodies, socks, everything, because we've got to test your quality. And 3 months later, Larry called me up and said, Dean, everybody loves it. Everything's soft, it's comfortable. And we also told him the why. How we serve veterans and first responders. We want to support a veteran company, and our members, they deserve American made. But Larry did say, Dean, we've got one problem. We've got a ton of inventory, and it's going to take a while to work through that before we can start shipping much of our purchasing. And Larry called me up 6 months later and said, Dean, you won't believe what I just got in the mail. A proud veteran donated at our monthly minimum level. We sent him one of our iconic red hats. He opened it up, saw a made in China tag, he cut it into shreds and sent it back to me with one note that said, shame on you. Shame on you. And Larry said, Dean, that's why we're shifting our purchasing to you. We serve veterans, we serve first responders, and they deserve American made. And he also highlighted that we make it easy because day one, we made an intentional choice. If you're Pepsi, J&J, any for-profit client of ours, you pay full price. If you're a charity nonprofit like Tunnel to Towers and hundreds of others, we do it at cost. So we don't make any profit on those, but we have helped hundreds of organizations, charities, and nonprofits build their brand and raise some money in the process. Anyone a baseball fan? Anyone remember this movie? What was the iconic line in this movie? Build it and they will come. Build it and they will come. It's a lie. It's flat out a lie. It is not true. We've got amazing product. When you act this up, it's done. Go out to our table. Pick up our t-shirts, pick up our hoodie, our socks. I mean, they're soft, they're comfortable, but nobody's coming just because we built it. Who's in sales and marketing out here? I mean, you know firsthand the importance of that. And this learning changed our whole focus because early on, we tried to be all things to all people. And when you don't have a Super Bowl ad budget, you don't have a big marketing budget, you can't do that. And we really decided we need a niche. And niche doesn't mind with riches, but riches are in the niches. And that's our philosophy now. So 90% of our revenue is custom. We serve thousands of businesses who don't want their employees wearing a Nike polo. They don't want a t-shirt made in China. They want a brand like ours. How many of you order a t-shirt or have a t-shirt or polo with your company logo? How many of you are ordering American made? Devin, hold it up high. Stand up real quick, Devin. So, Devin's been very intentional with the choices he's making, but there's one problem I have because Devin now is trying to negotiate a spokesmodel contract with us. Thank you, Devin. So, we narrowed that niche even further because, there's millions of businesses. And my team's thinking, veterans, back to that story of the towers, love our brand, love the fact that we're American made. My initial thought was that's too narrow, that's too small because only 1% served and a much smaller subset of owned businesses. But as we did our due diligence, we did our research, there's 400,000 veteran-owned businesses with 10 or more employees. There's 40,000 veteran-focused charities. So we serve thousands of businesses, but it should be tens of thousands. And when we're on national TV, we get a much broader focus, but it just reinforces to me, the need to go ahead and be focused. So if we're going to invest money in an event, we're going to invest money in the limited marketing we do, it's going to be focused on that demographic. So for those of you that had your hand up, that you order t-shirts and polos, and it's not American made, if you're interested in making that intentional American made choice, after hand me your business card or just drop it outside, check out the products we have because we would love to help you make a different choice in the future. So, last couple of stories. So, Devin, don't get nervous. This is not about politics because many of you probably recognize this gentleman. So, when I met Pete Hegseth in 2018, he was the host of Fox and Friends Weekend. Today, he is President Trump's Secretary of Defense. And you remember that first segment I showed you? That's when I met Pete. And I gave Pete, this fun patriotic pair of socks. And if you can see what he's wearing. So a year later, I was invited back. And Pete saw me and he said, Dean, it is so great to see you again. I still have the socks you gave me. They're my favorite pair. I said, Pete, please say that on national TV. And he did, and you can imagine the spike in traffic and sales. And I actually love what he said and probably what he didn't say because it's an important lesson. He said, they're my favorite brand because they're so incredibly soft, comfortable. They have this fun, patriotic design. That's why they're his favorite pair. But when you have an experience like that, that's when you want to learn more. And you read the fine print that says designed in Nashville and made in North Carolina. And our manufacturing is contracted. So we don't own these facilities, but we have contract manufacturing in 11 states. Instead of China, Bangladesh, Vietnam, very intentionally here. So our socks we make in North Carolina, our t-shirts in Texas, you'll see the fun lines out there in Georgia. So 11 states, very intentionally here in the US, even though it would cost more. So, how many of you have ever been to the Army Navy game? Yeah. Not enough hands. I'll tell you, if you've not been, add it to your bucket list. I mean, it is an incredible experience, and if you spend the day there at the Army-Navy game, in spite of all our faults, in spite of all of our shortcomings as a country, you will be filled with an incredible sense of pride in our country and what it means to serve this great nation of ours. So, I'm going to do a quick product demo, but before I do, I need to get a pulse on the audience. When it comes to the Army-Navy game, how many of you root for Army? My people. My people. How many of you root for Navy? I don't like you. I need help. Can you come up with a quick demo? So the t-shirt is the most ubiquitous apparel item. There's literally millions of them sold every year. It should be easier if you stand on this side. What's your name? Forrest. Nice to meet you, Forrest. Are you a good sport? All right, let's hope so. So if you can hold that. So this one is one of my favorites. On the front it says Go Army, but this has a special innovation, our sweat activated innovation. So watch what happens when I spray this. Forrest, can you read what that says? Can you say it a little bit louder for us? And for those of you in the back that can't see, you can make it. Forrest, you are good sports. No, I didn't think you'd say it. But here's what I love about this. somebody told me, Dean, no offense, I don't care where it's made. The shirt is so incredibly soft and comfortable, and if you were like my classmates Rusty and Daryl, your two favorite words are be naked. And there's nothing more you just enjoy more than seeing those words come. But back to 90% of our revenue being custom, we've done hundreds and hundreds of custom designs. So whatever you want printed, whatever you want magically to appear, we can do. So a lot of our clients, instead of being naked, will have their values, their mission statement magically appear, reinforcing the value of hard work. So Devin mentioned this earlier, but we are very intentional about giving back and making a difference. And I mentioned the one way we do that with 2 pricing tiers, for-profit and non-profit. But the other way, when I'm invited to speak, we will go ahead and bring a limited amount of merchandise. So you'll see it out there. We are non-profit seeking today. This is about how we can help an incredible organization like STA. So what we will do, 20% of our sales, not a profit, 20% of our sales today, we'll write a check back to Devin and STA to go ahead and help what you're doing. So if you want to purchase something, that's fantastic. If you don't, it's really not an impact for us because, again, we're not making any profit. But I do love when people have an opportunity to go ahead and experience our products. So Pete's favorite socks, we bring some of those. And I did see the look on some of your face like, Dean, one's red, one's blue. How am I going to do that? So this pair here is for the bold American patriot, like Pete, who's already got a strong stocking. So if you're a little more traditional, a little more conservative, you just get a new stocking. We do have a little more traditional conservative version. It's black and gray. So we've got this. We've got some of the fun sweat-activated t-shirts, but a number of different products out there. And again, this is a way for us to serve and make a difference and help an incredible organization. So I know we've already done it, but put your hands together again for Devin and STA. So, after Beat Navy, or probably before Beat Navy, 2 of my favorite words are Buy American. And back to that tagline, where it's yours made, I'm really hoping next time you're shopping, and unfortunately you can't do it everywhere, but next time you're shopping, I really want you to look at the tag. And whenever possible, make that intentional American choice because I can't underestimate the impact that you can have around what it's going to do to create American jobs, what it's going to go ahead and build a stronger country, and that is, to me, what it's all about. So, as I wrap it up here, these 10 words are important to me, and they will woven into every story I share. But if I'm going to leave you with one word, it's intentional. And nothing in life happens by accident. If you want to be successful, you want to build a business, you want to be a strong leader, you want to be strong with your family, you need to be deliberate. You need to be purposeful. You need to be intentional in every action you take. Because impact doesn't happen on accident. It happens by design. Devin, again, thank you for the invite, and I could not be more thankful to be here. So, thank you, everybody. Before we have a little bit of Q&A, I'm going to ask all of you to do me a favor because I'm a big believer in feedback as a gift. And if you can get your phones out there and scan that QR code, that will bring up a quick 1-minute survey. And I've got some other speaking opportunities come up, and I want to embrace continuous improvement. And the way I do that is feedback from you. So take a minute, fill out that survey. I would be incredibly grateful for that. But as a small way to say thank you, we'll send you a $25 gift card through our system. So Forrest, I know you didn't like the Army version, so we don't discriminate. There's a Navy version, so you can pick up one of those. But that would be a huge, huge help to go ahead and give me some feedback. Devin, we still have time for some questions? What questions? Yes. Yes, Paige.
Remember my name, great talk, great story, Paige Mullins with my Textiles. I wanted to ask you, thinking about teamwork and network of contractors that you work with, so I can help think about partners.
Yeah.
What do some of your best partners bring to the table proactively to help you deal with your work?
So that is a great question, Paige, and this gets back to the lesson I learned from Pete Hexer. better known and American made is important, but it means nothing unless we deliver an incredible product experience. So of those 11 states that you saw, all of our contract manufacturing, those are the ones that come to us with ideas and say, we've been doing some R&D, we've been doing some experimentation. So that big Navy example I gave, that was one of our suppliers that came to me and said, Dean, I've got this technology that I've been working on. It's hard to do, but what do you think? And I'm like, boy, would I ever love to test it to you. So, back to that teamwork, that is really what I love from a contract manufacturer. When they don't wait for ideas from us, they share with what they're working on. Does that answer your question? All right. Other questions? Yes?
Can you make a shirt that says on the back, sweat activated, I made it through a Ranger school?
I would wear that one proudly. And it is completely custom. Again, whatever you want printed, whatever you want magically to appear, we can do. So I made it through Ranger school, or, a lot of our clients, they are very intentional about their values, their mission statement, their mantra. So, when you get that to appear, whatever that message is, it reinforces that, lesson of hard work. Yeah. Yes?
Speaking of innovation, what is your process for finding new ideas? I think, sometimes these ideas, like we did that 20 years ago, and it gets pushed to the wayside. So, how active are you on finding innovation?
So this reinforces the teamwork lesson, because I need to raise the bar on everyone around me. So we've been very intentional about hiring some incredibly talented people. So if Sarah, our creative director, was here, she would talk about how her wheels are always turning, what she's doing, and the close collaboration she has. So, this is where we've embraced the idea of teamwork, that we need somebody like Sarah on our team. Back to Paige's question earlier, we need incredible contract manufacturers to make all that come together. And I know Sarah, I think it was 24 years ago, she graduated from the Moore School of Design, so she will sometimes bring up something all the way back from her college days on an idea. So I remember back in PEG and Mars, for example, and they say, Dean, what are you doing? That's not the Proctor way, or that's not the Martian way. And they would say, well, we tried that 20 years and it didn't work. I'm like, not to be difficult, but it's 20 years later. Let's have some fresh thinking. So that is a great question. And unfortunately, I'm blessed with an incredible team that is always looking for those ideas. Good question. Anything else? Good. Well, guys, I will be here after, but again, like I told you, Devin, these are my people. We all believe in this great nation of ours. We're committed to American manufacturing. So, actually would be. I've got my information here. So there's my email, there's my phone number. So if there's anything I can ever do to help, reach out anytime. But guys, it's a blessing to be here. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for your service and for the presentation.